Okay. This is Brother Parks Bay. This is Saturday, May 10th, at the Cherry Hill Library here in South Baltimore. I'm going to be going over some stuff. I have a wonderful gentleman, the worshipful Grand Master of what lodge?
Malachi Grand Lodge.
Malachi Grand Lodge here, and going over the possibilities of us resurrecting more of our men to be better men.
Yes.
So I'm going to go straight into stress. What is stress? The word stress is a shortening of the word distress. It dates back to around 1300. In the dictionary, stress is defined as hardship, adversity, force, and pressure. In a similar vein, when we talk about stress in terms of mental health, we're talking about emotional and physical reaction. We have to have emotional and physical reaction. We have to any kind of demand or pressure put upon us. Usually when we refer to being stressed, we see it as a bad thing, but some stress can actually be good for us. So going into the word stress, if you go into the word distress, so a lot of people don't know how to let other people know that they're in distress. Because we literally been told to hold on to stress. Men don't cry.
Yes.
Boys wear blue, girls wear pink. Where in parts of Africa, I've seen some of the outfits, they say pink is a man's color. We really have been downloaded that stress is hardship, adversity, force, pressure, but not really realizing how stress can actually get you to be competitive. You can find work, you can find on your job, you have a deadline to complete. So that means that's a demand, that's a stress. But that project of deadline completion can, for some people, can get them on their A game. Well, that's a good stress then. And then when you complete the project, before the deadline, the relief, like a mother giving birth, the pain, but the mission is to go ahead and give birth and the relief after. So we've been so programmed that stress is something negative, and we believe it because we never been given the other side of good stress. How we literally can put pressure on ourselves to begin doing responsible things. Back in the days, we was told to take out the trash, wash the dishes. We had our Saturday and Sunday chores, and the stress that was put upon us was you can't go outside unless these things are done. I was told to eat your vegetables first. Otherwise, you ain't getting the Kool-Aid with the saturated sugar inside. The syrup Kool-Aid, full of sugar. So you're not going to get a drink until you eat your vegetables and leave the meat later. Because apparently my mother and father knew that most of the children don't like vegetables. We just go straight for the meat or the chicken. But if you eat your vegetables, they knew that the vegetables going down first, the nutrients would be better for us. And then afterwards. So they already knew that drinking is going to fill up the holes in your stomach and you're going to get full. You ain't going to eat all your food. So that stress of doing your Saturday and Sunday chores, a lot of young people today have a hard time. They don't want to do it. They don't want to take out the trash, especially our young men. Don't want to take out the trash, don't want to do those things, not realizing that these are good levels of stress that when they get out on their own, they will be able to have a good home, keep a home up. So when a woman does come in their life, they have a clean environment, clean home, ready to be responsible. So the stress that we have today is not the stress we had years ago. There's global stress now. You know what I'm saying? There's financial stress now. You don't know, going to the gas station, you don't know whether the young boys at the corner are going to try to carjack. You know what I'm saying? So there is a social engineering download that stress is always negative. Is a download. So I'm going to go into addiction because stress causes people to choose a pacifier to deal with their stress. So some pacifiers could be chemical, drug addiction, alcohol. Some pacifiers could be shopping. It could be several things. So the meaning of addiction. Definition. Addiction is a treatable, chronic medical disease involving complex interaction among brain circuits, genetics, the environment, and an individual's life experiences. People with addiction use substance or engage in behaviors that become compulsive and often continue despite harmful consequences. And that's the meaning of addiction. I believe that is from Merriam-Webster. So addiction is treatable.
Okay. Yes, it is.
However, through social media, word of mouth, or a person just lacking the desire to research, people think that addiction is untreatable. A lot of people don't think that addiction can go through as far as genetic.
Yeah.
And that's why shopping. If a mother takes her daughter shopping all the time, that behavior turns into a genetic repetition in that little daughter that shopping's okay. Then she grows up in debt. She grows up, not in all cases, but most of the time, shopping, and then her relationship with people will always be transactional. Always transactional.
Excuse me.
So we have other addictions to environment. So our environment can be addictive. There's a lot of people who are addicted to poverty thinking or poverty environment.
This is my wife.
No, you got it. So in our environment, we have corner stores.
Can I take this?
And corner stores are not holistic for our bodies. So a lot of corner stores have low-grade food. You have, in certain counties, you have the supermarkets that have the fresh produce, but environment in the hood, they have the corner stores.
Yes.
And so a lot of people don't want to go and catch a cab or get transportation to go to those larger stores where they have the fresh produce. So that corner store becomes addictive. that corner store becomes the easy, even though the prices are ridiculous, because they know that they're the only game in town in the corner stores, because they know how far the nearest giant shoppers or whatever. So their prices may vary, but it's so convenient for the person in the neighborhood that they become addicted to that store. And so then they never think outside the box to go ahead and check out Sam's Club, BJ's. They never think about these different bulk Costco's. You know, so even addiction can be environmental, genetic, and dealing with behaviors. You know, you have people that I know people that cuss every 5 words.
Yeah.
Angry. Anger is an addiction. A lot of people don't know that when you're angry, your body secretes a chemical. That's why you feel hot when you're angry, because it's actually fire. It's literally fire. Anger produces fire, and that's why in certain Islamic teachings, the Prophet Muhammad of Arabia, peace be upon him, said, 3 times, don't get angry, don't get angry. Because the anger actually calls up a spirit called a jinn.
Did you?
It will call that spirit up. And there are people who are addicted to drama. They watch drama on television, and then they see life as dramatic. Boys in the hood, menace to society. So you have people who are even in their 40s and 50s. Anger, being too happy is an addiction. You could be so Mary Poppins. You could be so Pippi Longstocking. Maybe this is out of people's range here. But you can be so happy that you will lose focus on this wolf in sheep clothing, ready to devour you. You could be so happy that you can literally don't see someone scoping you out. You know what I'm saying? Plotting you out. Then you could be so happy that you don't even see the very coworker next to you who can't stand the fact that you're happy. And that coworker's negative thoughts projected at you actually causes a negativity, because people can project their energy towards you. And there are people who are addicted to gossip, naysaying, literally, not in the fact of sharing their feelings or sharing their thoughts, but there are people that every day they feed off of gossip. Tell me what happened. And so addiction covers all levels, and a lot of people don't realize it. So name some types of addiction. Shopping. Video games. Soap operas. Tyler Perry's Oval. Sisters. The news. Watching the news. I'm a Naked and Afraid fan. I like watching Naked and Afraid. I like to watch the survival of people with no tools except a pot and a machete and a fire starter survive in the jungle, and watching how they set up traps, dead traps and snares to get food. So I'm addicted to that type of program. Naked and Afraid. So addiction is so much on various levels that we really don't. Some of our behaviors, we don't see it as addictive. And some of our behaviors, we don't even see that someone programmed us to have this pattern. You know what I mean? I met individuals, and I saw it in myself, how if we see an accident or we see something, we're drawn to the negative first. So we want to be nosy, see what happened at the accident. You know what I mean? You know, so addiction covers food, not just heroin and crack and marijuana, and you know, because that's what the small-minded society, part of society, wants us to think in that minuscule way. But when you start to realize that addiction is, you could be addicted to flavored water. I like thrift stores. I'm addicted to thrift stores. I like going to thrift stores. You know, we have not been given a real comprehensive, we haven't been taught that addiction covers more than just chemical dependency. You know what I mean? I was taught a drug is any mood changing, mind altering substance is a drug. Mood changing, changes your mood and alters your mind. You know, substance. So a thought or thought patterns can be a drug. Fear of success. Fear of success to the point where as soon as a doorway is opened by the universe, and I'm about to get this particular job or gig, fear of success comes in. And because of that fear of success, that thought wave will actually create some type of low self-esteem, and I won't show up for the interview. Or I'll be late because I've been thinking so much that I didn't get up early on time or didn't get up enthusiastic, ready to roll. Then it's the fear of failure, which is a lot, you know, and not realizing part of success is failure. How am I going to learn that same mistake if I don't bump my head? You know, so sometimes we gotta, you know, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, you know, but all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So if we hear these nursery rhymes and then we become that Humpty Dumpty sitting high on the wall, arrogance, you know what I'm saying? And then the great fall could be because arrogance is a drug. Feeling above someone, feeling someone is below you and I am higher than you. Then when you have your great fall, no one is going to put you back together because the arrogance was so high. It caused resentment in people. Let's go into trauma. But before I do, I want to go back into the 6 types of summary. This is a summary chart of 6 types of addicts. There is the compulsive addict. The symptoms are overfocus, worrying, trouble letting go of hurts. Yep, right there. The brain findings in the neurotransmitter on the compulsive addicts increase AC, meaning anterior cingulate, low serotonin. So a compulsive addict is overfocused, overworried, worrying, trouble letting go of their pain. They have an increase of serotonin, a low of serotonin in their brain. What do they need? Serotonin mood support, or St. John's wort. So those who are suffering with compulsive, they are compulsive addicts, they're always worrying, they have trouble letting go. This sheet says that taking St. John's wort or serotonin mood support can help balance their sense of worry. The second, impulsive addicts. Impulsive is impulsivity, bored, easily distracted. Their supplements need to be focused and energy optimizer, green tea and lycopene. Then you have the impulsive, compulsive, and that's a combination of both. Over focusing, worrying so much, bored and easily. Then you have the fourth, which is the sad or emotional addict. Sad or depressed mood, winter blues, carbohydrate training, carbohydrate cravings, meaning they a lot of pasta, a lot of bread, a lot of carbs, loss of interest, sleeps a lot, low energy, self-medicates to improve their mood. The fifth is the anxious addict. Anxious, tense, nervous, predicts the worst, self-medicates to calm. Then it's the temporal lobe addicts. They have temper problems, mood instability, memory problems, and learning disabilities. Now, I've read to you compulsive addicts, impulsive, compulsive, sad or emotional addicts, anxious addicts, temporal lobe addicts. I think this is America. Everybody has a little bit of this in them. I'm going back to when Elmer J. Fudd was chasing after Bugs Bunny with a rifle, or what they call a long gun, or today would be an AR-15. So I'm watching Elmer J. Fudd chasing after Bugs Bunny, a rabbit, shooting him or shooting at him. I'm watching The Roadrunner with Wild E. Coyote. I don't know where he gets all these explosives from the Acme Center.
That's it.
I don't know how he's connected to these sleeper cell explosive. I don't know where he's getting these weapons from, but Wild E. Coyote is constantly trying to kill the Roadrunner, and I'm talking about exploding, blowing up mountains and stuff, mountainside, and creating avalanches. And today, that was violent downloading in my youth. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So even that download, even Tweety Bird and Sylvester, so these cartoons were actually downloads. We're watching visually someone with a weapon shooting an innocent bunny rabbit, but the bunny rabbit was taunting him. So what would that do in my later years if someone was taunting me? I would turn into Elmer J. Fudd. Psychologically, not realizing, but here's someone who is taunting me, and I remember Bugs Bunny taunting Elmer J. Fudd, and Elmer J. Fudd said, "I'm gonna get you, Screwy Rabbit. I'm gonna get you." So even in adulthood, someone taunting would literally, I wouldn't even, it's all a download subconscious memory. I would literally be ready for revenge, not knowing that this was a download. So there are compulsive, impulsive, emotional, anxious, and temporal load situations that in everybody, that pretty much, I would say, if you grown up in the hood, I mean, you would literally have to be way out there in the mountains, where there's just black bears and some other stuff, where you have no contact with nobody. But if you grew up anywhere in the metropolis area, these are some of the symptoms that everyone will go through. Compulsive, impulsive, emotional. You know, even today, what's happening today is very emotional. There's no way that we are going to get out of some of these addictions. You know what I mean? Even now, we have our children now who they are literally addicted to that cell phone. Yeah. And if you take that cell phone from them, you literally anger, that compulsive, you know, will come out. And then you will literally see them get angry, want to get violent. Then you see them go into a depression for long periods of time of not having that phone. Well, that's what COVID did. COVID shut down our dependencies, and we were forced to go in self. Fathers had to learn to be fathers. Yeah, it's your children. You had them. Mothers had to be mothers. You know, in relationships, you literally had to participate because everybody was supposedly closed in. So you literally had to face yourself. That's deep.
That's right.
That's deep. So trauma is any type of distressing event. So we know that stress is another word from distress. So when a person is in distress, that means I need attention. You know what I'm saying? So trauma is any type of distressing event or experience that can have an impact on a person's ability to cope and function. Trauma. Any type of distressing event. COVID was traumatic. 9/11 was traumatic. What's going on overseas in this place where you have two people fighting against each other in what they call the Holy Land. That incident over there. Now we have Pakistan and India. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And as we are watching the television, it is indirect trauma. It's not, we're not even in the fight, but we're in the fight. Because as we watch the news is bringing us into this distressing event. The tariffs, all of these things that's going on, people being laid off, all of these things are traumatic, and they are literally passed through us, and then we become compulsive, impulsive, we get emotional, and one thing triggers another. So we don't realize that some of the world events are actually triggering emotions in us that we really don't even know is being orchestrated. The tornadoes in Midwest, watching people's homes ripped apart, West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky. I mean, literal floods in Texas, wildfires. So all of these things are like downloads. And unbeknownst of us, it's locked in the subconscious mind. And we'll walk around every day. We'll walk around every day, but not realize that these things are being downloaded in us. Types of trauma: abuse, assault, car accident, death of a loved one, divorce, abandonment, imprisonment, job loss, natural disasters, physical injury, rape, serious illness, terrorism, violence, witnessing a crime, accident, etc. I want to go into abandonment and terrorism. Superman, Spider-Man, Batman. They all had their loved ones taken away. Superman planet was destroyed. Batman's parents were murdered in front of him. Spider-Man, Auntie M, I think it was his uncle, was taken out. So just these three caped crusaders, as they say, the great Caesar's ghost. But all of these characters that we watch on the movies, and they play these different versions of the movies. You know, Batman Returns. You know, The Dark Knight, is actually reinforcing the abandonment issues in of a lot of people. And that's why in a lot of the communities that we're living in now, we fear being alone. We fear abandonment because we are actually an abandoned people. We literally have been abandoned in the sense that we weren't even given the proper knowledge of who we are, the proper knowledge of self, you know. And abandonment is in a lot of relationships today, you know, this fear of abandonment, and it manifests in our behavior, you know. I watch Judge Judy and all these other TV shows, and you can see that families are suing each other, but you can literally, when they go over the story, you can see that there was some abandonment and terrorism, because the word ism means doctrine. The word ism means teaching of. Mm-hmm. So terrorism is the teaching of inflicting terror. Well, inflicting terror is like inflicting trauma back on another person. So when we walk out there in the street and we see people cussing, we see drug addiction, we see a lot of disgruntled relationships, disgruntled children, young people committing crime. It's trauma affecting trauma. It's the teaching of terrorism, that it's okay to commit a crime. You'll just be returned back to your mother. You're not 18 yet. They're not going to bother you. This relationships, even with co-workers, we have gotten to a point where we really don't know that, well, most of us, that we terrorize each other even with our low self-esteem thoughts. We terrorize ourselves. Fear of failure, fear of success, abandonment, heavy abandonment issues. And that's one of the reasons why certain communities haven't been able to rise up, and the whole world is waiting for this one community to get it. But because of abandonment, because of practicing terrorism on each other, everybody else seems to be getting their own stores, everybody else seems to be doing for self, and it's just this slow rhythm of this particular species because they've been traumatized for so long. Symptoms of trauma: intrusive thoughts and memories, hypervigilance, hyperarousal, feeling unsafe, post-traumatic stress disorder, loss of interest, avoidance, unhealthy coping behavior. Look at our youth today. Lack of interest. I don't want to take out no trash. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to work. I'm trying to figure out how they get the weed money to smoke all the weed and 40 ounce. They're not selling. They're not distributing. They're not the supplier. Well, how do you get the weed money but you don't want to go get a job? Mm-hmm. Lack of interest, unhealthy coping behavior. Our young men are hyper arousal. Another man try to correct them, man, they going off on them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Hyper arousal. They are quick to go from 0 to 60 emotionally without even sitting back and saying, maybe my actions did affect this situation. They don't even want to reflect on their behavior. Automatic defense mode. Hypervigilance. Our young people now they're so hypervigilant in negativity. Not all of them, but most of them, but they are so hypervigilant on the more ghetto you sound, the more your pants are down your behind showing your underwear, the more it's socially acceptable. The more that you look unkept, and it's avoidance. We try to avoid responsibility, accountability, manhood. There's a lion king and there's a lion queen, and there's lion cubs. We want to be lion cubs. We don't want the responsibility. If we are told by the mayor in Baltimore City that the people in the community are going to have to pitch in to help their community, and yet the community still has not pitched in large scales, then that means that there's some trauma. There's avoidance. There's unhealthy coping behaviors, because if this is your community, why are you waiting for the city? This is your community. Back in the days, man, your mom saw my mom. If your mother saw me 12 o'clock noon, knowing that I'm in middle school, and they know the times of school, well, my mother's gonna find out before I get home. Today, you try to correct a young man or even a toddler, the hyper arousal of these mothers, because they've been traumatized maybe by the baby daddy. Even when I am on patrol and I'm on my post, there is a lack of respect for male authority. Even if you're coming with kindness and equity and you're trying to explain to them, listen, you don't want to do this, let me show you a better way to go about it. There is this hyper arousal of feeling angry. You ain't gonna tell me what to do, Even coming in the door of some of these stores, the mug, the facial expressions, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. So this is transgenerational trauma. Whew, this is heavy. Transgenerational trauma. Transgenerational trauma is also known as intergenerational trauma. This refers to the transmission of trauma from the first generation of trauma survivors to subsequent generations. A generation is 20 to 25 years. This process may occur due to various factors, such as parenting behaviors influenced by trauma. Remember I talked about the baby mama who went through trauma with the baby daddy. You know, maybe she was rejected while she was pregnant. You know, or he went to jail, or there was abuse there. So it says such as parenting behaviors influenced by trauma, stressors related to the trauma, and potential genetic changes caused by the trauma. So trauma can actually change DNA? Wow. So if I had you under my thumb, working from Camp Morning to Can't See Night, and I took you from the East Coast of America and pushed you all the way to Oklahoma, the Trail of Tears. And I took from you everything. Your language, your culture, your religion, your God. And then you had children that 20 years later they had children. And this trauma was while you was pregnant in the womb. And so that trauma transferred through the mother's placenta to the child. And the child comes out traumatized. And the environment that this child is in is fortifying the trauma. You know what I mean? Don't look them in the eye. You know what I'm saying? Walk out in the street while they walk on the sidewalk. You know what I'm saying? Act dumb, act stupid. Because they might take you away from me. All of these things. And then generational down the line. This same behavior. Generational. Genetic trauma. So the scientists already know if I could traumatize people and then put in the food traumatizing chemicals that will keep the traumatized going, like monosodium glutamate, MSG, which attacks the brain cells, where trauma's here. So if I can create from the 1980s, from the Sugar Hill Gang to the 90s with Tupac and Biggie and Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls and then all of a sudden now we have Cardi B and we have all of this, what they call trap music. Trap music. So music is a frequency. Mm-hmm. So genetically, I can keep that trauma alive through hip hop music. Wow. Transgenerational. Wow. From when hip hop was telling stories of the lifestyle of what's going on, criminal minded, KRS-One and all of these other that was rapping about what's going on in society, where now we're talking about just sex, licking, sticking, blah, blah, blah. Right. So it says the impact of conflict, transgenerational trauma in Palestine. So let's just take away from Palestine. Okay. Let's just look at let's look at all civilizations were at one time enslaved. Every civilization, even in the Bible, it tells you about how Israel was taken to Babylon. Yes. Throughout the Bible, the civilizations were enslaved. Yes. So the enduring legacy of these conflicts and displacement significantly contributes to the presence of transgenerational trauma in societies. In this setting, the experiences of trauma are not isolated to individuals, but permeate through generations, impacting the psycho or psychosocial health of the community. So we're wondering why our communities are still suffering in poverty thinking, because transgenerational trauma, not isolated from an individual point of view, but through neighborhoods. If I can traumatize this community, that trauma will transfer to another community. So people moving out of the inner city, out in the county, bringing the same behavior from the city into the county. And you wonder why PG crazy? PG County. We don't even realize that we're passenger pigeons. We are carrying this trauma from the inner city to the county, to where folks who've been in the county for long are saying, oh, here they go. Oops, time to move out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's because of this transgenerational trauma we don't even realize we're doing. It says research reveals a profound effect in older generations who experience firsthand the periods of conflict and displacement. These traumatic experiences don't simply disappear, but are often unconsciously passed to subsequent generations. Even those who did not directly experience these traumatic events. Now I'm going back to 9/11. I'm going back to all these other H1N1, all of these different West Nile virus, all of these things. So those old school OGs, we OGs, we don't even realize that we passed down some of this trauma to the new generations because they may have not directly experienced the trauma. That's why I said every nation went under slavery.
Yeah.
I don't want to just say, well, it was the black people that were slaves by no, every nation historically went under some form of enslavement. So transgenerational trauma is global. It's not isolated to the African American experience. Afghanistan? I mean, women couldn't have education or you get stoned. That's transgenerational trauma. Then if they are blessed to come to America, that behavior or fear of being stoned if they try to get an education, even in America, they will let other ladies know of their experiences, and her trauma is verbally passed on to the next system. Not realizing it's a cultural thing, and it wasn't just a traumatic, it was a cultural traumatization of the women, knowing that every man came from a woman. So children and grandchildren of original trauma survivors can internalize their elders' traumatic experience through various mechanisms, such as narratives, behavior patterns, emotional responses, and socialization processes. These can manifest in various forms, including depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic slave disorder. I always wondered why my mother always wanted us to check, before we go to bed, we had to check the door, the windows, you know what I'm saying? So what happened in the 1930s and 40s when she grew up? We was told to leave a light on, whether it was the kitchen light or the bathroom light. Leave a light on. You know what I'm saying? So what were What did they go through that they passed down this experience on to me? So there's a lot of things that as seasoned men and women, we pass to young people for their own good, but it could actually be some trauma that we don't want them to receive. We're trying to give them a heads up so they won't go over the same pothole that we went through. But it's actually also sharing some trauma indirectly in many forms. You know, depression, anxiety, socialization processes. You know, there are people that teach their children only socialize with those of your brand, of your ethnicity, of your religion. You know what I'm saying? Of your particular, you know, only the light skins. You know what I'm saying? The brown paper bag thing. You know, so we don't even realize transgenerational trauma is in every culture on the planet. I remember someone coming to me and you ain't no real Muslim, and I said, what is a real Muslim? You know, what is Muslim? You know, and I said, you know, brother, Muslim is a destination. I said it's a journey. You know how much personal development and work that you got to get to submit your entire will to do the will of God. I said, brother, it takes a lot of personal work, development, emotional stability. I can make prayer 5 times a day and somebody will step on my shoe and I'll credit them. I said, so brother, I said, let me tell you something. I said, Muhammad said 3 generations after me will no longer be of me. 3 generations. So 3 generations is about 75 years. And I asked the brother, when did hadiths come out? 70 years after Prophet Muhammad died. So am I going to rely on hadith or am I going to rely on the Quran? I said, brother, I rely on the Quran. You know what I'm saying? So I had to kind of hit him up a little bit, you know, kind of, you know, like, you ain't talking to no, you know, I ain't no new jack here, you know, bro. You know, I'm just trying to, you know, let you know. Do you know what a generation is? So 3 generations from 1980 to now. No wonder why our children are just prone to hypervigilant, emotional. You know, I mean, they smoke marijuana like peanut chews now. You know what I'm saying? They you know, it's you know, they will defend its herbal significance. You know, so that's amazing. It says, in addition to these psychological symptoms, transgenerational trauma in societies has also contributed to a collective sense of loss, grief, and anger. This has implications not only for individuals' mental health, but also for societal cohesion and the capacity for peace building. The impact of trauma can extend beyond the psychological to impact social relationships, community structures, and even political landscapes. In the context of societies, the collective experience of trauma has been a potent force shaping social and political dynamics. So the impact of trauma by certain powers that be can get the job done that they want to be done by traumatizing. It says social or political dynamics adding another layer of complexity to this deep-rooted issue. In the face of such overwhelming adversity, societies show remarkable resilience. However, without substantial change to the underlying causes of their trauma, the cycle of transgeneration trauma is likely to persist. Addressing transgenerational trauma. Addressing the issue of transgenerational trauma in societies requires a multifaceted approach. Mental health support, the provision of mental health services is crucial to help individuals cope with their trauma and prevent the further transmission of trauma to younger generations. Conflict resolution. Peaceful resolution of the societal conflict is key to stopping the cycle of trauma, and humanitarian aid, ensuring the provision of basic needs and rights, is crucial in alleviating the daily stresses and exacerbate trauma. So I'm going to pass here, and I'm going to go into one of the things the 12-step ladder. We got about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, okay, 12-step ladder. Hold on. I hope I got it. I didn't print it out.
Okay. No problem. Go.
Lord have mercy.
Go with your
So
slide.
anyway,
Go with your slide.
so the 12-step ladder is a chapter 23 out of the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Okay.
This is chapter 23. Consider thou art a parent, the importance of thy trust, the being that you or thou hast produced, it is your duty to support. Upon thee also it dependeth whether the child of thy bosom is a blessing or a curse to thyself, an unuseful or a worthless member to the community. Prepare him or her early with instruction and season his or her mind with the maxims of truth. Watch the bent of their inclination, of his inclinations, set him right in his youth, and let no evil habit gain strength with his years. So shall he rise like a cedar on the mountain, his head shall be seen above the trees of the forest. A wicked son is a reproach to his father, but he that does right is an honor to his gray hair. The soil is thine own. Let it not want to cultivation. The seed which thou sowest, that also shall you reap. So I'm going to stop there and go back up to the top. It basically is saying, as a parent, the importance of my trust, the importance of this child that I produced. I'm responsible. If she's good enough to lay down with, then she's good enough to, be a baby daddy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a father.
Mm-hmm.
So upon this child depends, whether that child is a blessing or a curse to myself. Now, if trauma comes in the home, if that child is rejected at birth, if that child feels the energy of rejection and lack of love, then we're taking a chance of whether that child will be a blessing or a curse, depending on how you prepare him early with instructions. So even the church, as many people who may not like the church and, Christianity, and coming into the light of certain things, and even in Islam, religious wise, the church played a major role in structure for the young people. Church gave us a certain structure, that prepared us early with instructions. Our minds were seasoned. It may not have been seasoned to where we are now, but there are certain parents and certain households that train the child in the way it should go. Mm-hmm. Watching the bent of our inclination, watching our shortcomings and our character defects and checking us. Y'all better stay away from them reefers. Remember we used to bring our friends home, and our parents used to check them out. I don't like that boy. I don't like that boy. Where he from around? 45th Street. I don't know about that boy. Something about him. And so we watch the bent of their inclinations. We set them right in their youth, and let no evil habit gain their years. So going back down to number 8, teach him obedience. So teach him obedience, and he shall bless thee. Teach him modesty, and he shall not be ashamed. Teach him gratitude, and he shall receive benefits. Teach him charity, and he or she shall gain love. Teach him temperance, and he shall have health. Teach him prudence, and fortune shall attend him. Teach him justice, and he shall be honored by the world. Teach him sincerity, and his own heart shall not reproach him. Teach him diligence, and his wealth shall increase. Teach him benevolence, and his mind shall be exalted. Teach him science, and his life shall be useful. Teach him religion, and his death shall be happy. So these 12 words have meanings. I call it the 12-step ladder. And so this is the 12-step ladder, starting from the bottom. Obedience is first. Teaching our children obedience, teaching them modesty, not going out there dressed up any kind of way. Our sisters in them couldn't wear no dang curlers in their hair and wearing pajamas out there and these little bonnet things out to the mall. That's right. Teach them gratitude, being grateful you got a roof over your head, food food in your stomach, charity, how to share, temperance, prudence, justice, sincerity, diligence, benevolence, science, and religion. So I want to go, and we got about 12 minutes left. Obedience means compliance with an order, request, or law, or submission to another's authority. Children were taught to show their parents' obedience. So obedience is compliance with an order, with the request. Obedience with the law. If I know that I'm not supposed to go past a red light, why am I gonna go past a red light? Submission to another's authority. We have today a lack of respect for authority, especially male authority. And obedience doesn't mean a slave. Obedience just means respecting another person's space, position, or title, and respecting their relationship. Yes. I can send that to you. You want me to send it?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Modesty, the quality of not being too proud, too confident about yourself and your abilities. So modesty is the quality of not being too proud and confident about yourself, being humble. You know what I'm saying? That's why I was taught when people say, yeah, brother, you look good. Brother, I'm just a reflection of you, beloved. You know what I'm saying? If you don't look good, I don't look good. You know what I'm saying? So, I can take the compliment, but I'd rather toss it back to you to make you understand. I'm only dressed up good because you. If I'm sharp, I know you sharp. And that boosts people's esteem when you can deflect it and compliment them back automatically. Gratitude, the state of being grateful, thankfulness. Charity is generosity and helpfulness, especially towards the needy or suffering. Also, aid given to those in need. Well, we know in certain circles and sacred orders, these are words that are part of sacred orders. True. Sacred societies, of men and women, you know, and in certain religious organizations, you know, helpfulness, charity, not just charity giving money. Charity could be, listen, you want me to clean your bathroom? You know, I just got some a big bowl of cauliflower, or I got a big bowl of kale that I want to contribute. You know, wanting to cook in the kitchen. You know, for an event. Then we have temperance. Temperance is moderation in action, thought, and feeling. Restraint. Temperance. You know, temperance, power is knowing I can, but I ain't gonna do it.
No. Control.
Temperance.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? You know you can, I mean, even just with your words, you know you could tear that mother clucker.
Yep.
Oh, how you doing, bro? I apologize. I apologize. That was my fault. You know, even though they offended you, you apologize. That ain't punk stuff.
No.
That's called conflict resolution.
That's
You know what I'm saying? And it's also a form of martial arts.
Come on.
By taking that energy and flipping that energy back. You know what I'm saying? Let that person feel that they won. You know what I'm saying? Let them feel that. You know? And so, then we have justice. We have prudence, the ability to govern and discipline oneself by use of reason, sagacity, or shrewdness in the management of affairs. So prudence is the ability to govern. Well, you can't govern unless you have some level of restraint.
Makes sense.
Because if I give you power, you don't know how to handle that power. Well, how are you going to be able to govern and discipline oneself? By the use of reason, sagacity, shrewdness in the management of affairs, skill and good judgment in the use of resources. This is a parent. You are a parent of a child. If that parent sees that you trying to be their friend, like today, parents are friends with their children. My mother and father was never my friend.
Right.
It's never my friend.
Right.
So the ability to govern depends on how you have your relationship with that child or whoever. You know what I'm saying? If you're in a position of a parent and yet you hanging out with your child like you their age, that's a problem.
Major.
Justice, the maintenance or administration of what is just, especially by the impartial adjustment of conflicting claims or the assignment of merited awards or punishment. So justice is a parent or a supervisor or someone in a position that has the maintenance and administrative skills. You know, maintenance is not just garbage, getting the bags out of the garbage can, he's with the maintenance. Maintenance is checking the thermostat. Maintenance is making sure there's no dust accumulation in the vents. Maintenance is making sure there's no leaks coming down from the building, you know, inside after a rainstorm. So maintenance in an administration, you know, in conflicting claims. You're going to have to be a referee.
True.
As a parent, as a supervisor. Sincerity, the quality or state of being sincere. Honesty of mind, freedom from hypocrisy. And that's within self. I have to have sincerity of mind first. I can be sincere with you, brother, but not be sincere with myself. I can be honest with you about your issues. I can tell you about yourself and your issues, But then when I come back to my issues, I'm in denial. So that's, I'm not being sincere. To thine own self be true. I'm not being sincere. Diligence, steady, earnest, and energetic effort. Devoted and painstaking work and application to accomplish an undertaking. Assiduity. Steady. Steady and temperance go together. Because you can't have diligence without having some form of self-restraint.
That's right.
You can't be steady without any certain restraint or control of self. Earnest, energetic effort. And that's what we was talking about earlier. Our men are not energetic after the first round of waking them up. You know, after they get to what they think is, I have arrived, then the energy dissipates. Not realizing that they have more work to do.
Yes.
You know, this is just the beginning. Yeah, you know.
You just getting started.
You just getting started.
Right.
We're just getting this party right.
That's right.
Benevolence, disposition to do good, the act of kindness, a generous gift. Science, knowledge or a system of knowledge covering general truths or the operation of a general laws, especially as obtained and tested through scientific method. Such knowledge or such a system of knowledge concerned with the physical world and its phenomenon, natural science. So science is a system of knowledge covering general truths.
That's right.
A system. So as a parent, my parents had a system of knowledge. Saturday we did laundry. You separate the whites from the brights, right? The whites, brights, and the colors.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was a system on how to use the wash machine. My father had a system of washing the dishes. Clean as you go.
I heard that.
Clean as you go. You know what I'm saying? So these things, these scientific methods, today people want this microwave instant gratification. They don't want the detailed science. They want the quick study guide, the how to do it for dummies, when some things you need to know the background science of it so you won't get yourself caught up
Go ahead.
in some stuff.
Go ahead.
And so today's society don't want to listen to master teachers like yourself and myself and others. They don't want to listen. You know what I'm saying? They want to go ahead and do it on their own without proper instructions. Religion, a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitudes,
Go ahead.
beliefs, and practices. The service and worship of God, the Creator, or the supernatural. Commitment or devotion to religious faith or observance, a cause, principle, or system of beliefs held to with adore and faith. So religion is not just Christianity, Islam, Judaism. Religion can also be a cause. A principle. Raising up our black men from a dead level, not black men, raising up all men from a dead level to a living perpendicular is a cause. And if you are diligent, sincere, have prudence, temperance, and you're grateful, and you're modest, and your obedience to your mission, then it becomes a religion, the cause of it, where you are going after men, the young men, to get them from being Pookie and Ray Ray to being Master Jones, Brother Jones. You know, a system of beliefs. So a lot of people don't know the word religion means to bind back. It means to bind back, to put together, to unify. The word religion means to bring together. So what are we bringing together? We're bringing the spiritual and the physical, the physical, mental, and spiritual. We're aligning it back, making it balanced and symmetrical. So you can have a religion of spirituality that has no particular name. It just is a system that you have about yourself, that you are working on your character defects, shortcomings, insecurities, loneliness, anger issues, procrastination. So this cause or system of beliefs about yourself can actually become your religion. Because what you're doing is you're binding back, you are unifying what they call yoga, because that's what yoga is. You're binding back, you're uniting, you're redefining yourself. So there's a lot of people that really have no clue. A lot of people have no clue as to the responsibility of this 12-step ladder. You know, this is a 12-step ladder. And we can't go from obedience at the top, because we always know you got to work from the ground up. You know, and that's why I put obedience at the bottom. You know.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
And so the word obedience, the Bible, is a guy named Obed.
Sure enough. Obed even had the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes,
in
Obed.
his house.
Yes.
Obed, a black man.
Yes. And so again, you know, these words have meaning. You know what I'm saying? We always said religion means to rely on. You know what I'm saying? So if you're relying on something, who are you relying on? When a certain man in the New Testament said the kingdom is within. A certain scripture in a book says that I am closer to you than your jugular vein.
Ooh. Yeah, sure enough did.
In another Old Testament, it says, I am that I am. So who are we relying on? Are we relying on something that's a mystery, or all the books that's pointing that we are the mystery? We just got to go within and find it. We are the mystery. We are the ones that the divine within. You know what I'm saying? Where a lot of people, we've been taught, traumatized, looking outside for the source of our help, when if we work on ourselves within, then the source outside of self would get the word out in the hood that you accomplished some self-development, and would go ahead and donate in charity some open doors. So if I don't go within, I'm looking for a job. If I don't go ahead and get up off my behind and go on the internet, get a suit and tie, some slacks, and some shoes and shave, or even do a resume, and go and learn, or get on the internet, or go to some of these job preparedness places and prep myself to go out there and go get a job. If I don't do that, then the universe is not going to say your wish is my command. But if I prep myself, you know what I'm saying, and I'm setting my thing, you know, I'm putting everything in order, and my mindset is on what? Religion, a cause or principle. And if my mind is set on getting the job, then that outside force in the universe there's gonna be a connection to the outer towards the inner. Because it works from the inside on out. As above, so below. So if I don't work on the below part within me, then nothing's gonna come to me. Today, our young people have this illusion that stuff is going to come to them even if they don't do anything. Even some of the older people today, it's going to come to me. I'm going to wait on the Lord. No, the Lord didn't say for you to wait. What I do, all men must do even greater. If he can heal and cast out demons, he said what I do, all men must do. Now, this is the Bible red letter.
Yeah.
That means that's what he said. That's not what Paul said,
That's right.
and not what your pastor said.
That's right.
What I do, all men must do even greater. So if he healed and cast out demons, why am I sitting in a place that's not telling me that I can heal and cast out demons as well? If I'm in an environment, an organization that does not transform my life or not teaching me transformative or does not develop my transformative power, then I need to get out of it. Whether it's a religious organization or whatever it is, if you're not empowering me, the God within me, to transform my condition, and it's up to me to do it, and you're telling me I gotta wait for somebody outside or something outside of me to change my condition, then you're not helping me. You keeping me dead in a shallow grave.
Go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? And that's where we are now. People are still looking outside of self, thinking that something's gonna miraculously save us. And it's not gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna end this, brother.
Wow.
We on time. Oh, brother man.